How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Nian's Thoughts. In this video, I would like to talk about US visas. The reason I make this video is basically because I have a lot of friends and many of them would like to either study in the United States or work in the United States. However, they just got so many questions about different types of US visas and the procedures to apply for those visas. Therefore, I received tons of questions from them, and I think it would be more efficient if I make a video about it and more people can watch this and solve the problems. So there are basically two types of US visas. The first is immigration visa and the second type is non-immigration visa. And today in this video I would like to talk about 4 different types of visas. The first is J1 visa, which is the exchange visa. The second type is F1 visa, which is the student visa. Third type is H1B Visa, which is the working visa. And fourth type is J1 visa. And this type of visa is basically for those people with special ability. First, I would like to give a very brief introduction to myself. I went to the United States twice, both on J1 visa, and I got 2 internships there. On the other hand, I also get in touch with a lot of people with other visas, and personally, since I was planning to work in the United States, and therefore I read a lot of articles regarding to the details about the H1B visa and also the J1 visa. On the other hand, I have a lot of friends that are holding the F1 visa. Therefore, I would like to compare these 4 visas together and give you some hints and suggestions. So, what is an immigration visa and what is a non-immigration visa? For non-immigration visa, is basically for those people who are either study, travel, or exchange or take tours in the United States without the purpose to be a permanent resident in the United States. While for immigration visa, they basically wish to work in the United States and get the PR, which is the permanent residence in the United States, or become a US citizen. The non-immigration US visa application process is much simpler compared to immigration visa. If you have the visa interview during the US embassy, you will see that basically, since I'm right now in Singapore, you can see that there are actually 3 windows for non-immigration visa, while there is a special window for immigration visa. And the majority of people would definitely apply for the non-immigration visa. If you apply for immigration visa, they will require you a tons of documents. So basically, during one of my interviews, since we are actually in the queue, right, and we were able to see those people just in front of us having the interviews. And for a person who is having an immigration visa, 10 or 15 of us, which is under the non-immigration visa queue, we have already finished our interview, which is just like 2 or 3 minutes, but that person is still there. The interviewer is asking him tons of questions, and I think that process is like quite long. Alright, the 4 types of visa I would like to mention here today. Only the H1B visa belongs to the immigration visa, while for the rest of 3 visa types, they belong to the non-immigration visa. However, there is one exception here, and that is L1 visa. So basically, for F1 visa and J1 visa, they are not eligible to apply for permanent residence. However, for the non-immigration visa, L1 visa, they are able to apply for the permanent residence. And of course, for H1B, since there are immigration visa, they can definitely apply for the green card. Let's first talk about F1 visa, since I believe this is the most straightforward type through these 4 types of visas. The F1 visa is basically issued to the students who are willing to study full-time in the United States. They could be primary student, high school student, undergrad, master, or even PhD student. And the application process, I would say, is the easiest during this 4, since I believe you just need to give your schools some basic information about yourself, then they will just issue this F1 visa to you. But how about J1 visa? There are actually 3 different categories for J1 visa. The first type is those technical training program. For example, during my first internship, I was issued this J1 visa to have my internship. And second type is overseas exchange program. For example, during my second visit to the United States, I was issued the J1 visa to study at University of Wisconsin-Madison for 1 semester. And third type is for government, corporation, or communication. I'm not really familiar with that category, so I won't illustrate too much in this video. So, if you would like to apply for a J1 visa, you have to have a sponsor. So that sponsor, they will issue this J1 visa. And for sponsor, there are actually 3 categories as well. The first type is for those organizations designated by US government. For example, my first internship, my sponsor was Cultural Vistas. So my employer, they reached out to this sponsor, which is Cultural Vistas. They told them, okay, I got an intern, he's overseas, and we want to issue him a H1B visa. And therefore, the company reached out to the sponsor, and the sponsor will reach out to me, and they will just issue me a H1B visa. The application process is not that difficult since most of the procedures were done by the sponsor. However, here you have to keep in mind that you have to have a company that is willing to give you an offer, and they have the capability to reach out to those sponsors. The second type is universities. So for basically universities, they can issue you a H1B visa directly, and that is quite straightforward. And the third type of sponsor is for those designated companies or corporations by US government. Therefore, for those companies, if they want to issue you a H1B visa, they don't have to reach out to the sponsor since they are sponsors themselves. However, this is not that often. Only very few companies in the United States have this kind of privilege. Alright, next I would like to talk about the compensation for both J1 and F1 visa, since these two types of visas got a lot of similarities. For J1 visa, there are actually just two branches or two parts. The first is visa itself. So the visa is basically the stamp on your passport. After you have the interview at the US Embassy, you will give your passport to them if you have a successful interview. And after just like a few days, they will return this to you, and there will be a J1 visa on your passport. On the other hand, you also got a form which is called DS 2019 form. So what's the difference between these two things? So basically, the visa is just like a ticket which you can enter the US. However, the DS 2019 form is basically the details about your visa. And there are actually a lot of difference between these two parts, since for your visa, actually all the things, all the information on it is static. It cannot be changed. While for DS 2019 form, they can be changed. So one of the circumstances that the details on your form will be changed. So for example, let's say you got a 3-month internship at a company in the United States. So once you got your visa, right, you got your DS 2019 form as well. You enter the US, and after 1 month, you wish to extend your internship like for 1 month. And after that, your employer, they will reach out and they will extend the DS 2019 form for 1 month for you. However, your visa, your J1 visa will actually just stay there. There will not be any changes. But probably you ask like, what if my visa expired? Will I be still legal? And the answer is yes, you will be still legal to stay in the United States based on your DS 2019 form state. And this is very common for academic training, which I will mention about later. While for F1 visa students, they got a similar form called I-20. So that is basically something. And your valid stay in the United States is basically also similar to the date on the I-20 form as well. So I know some PhD students, right? Since recently the US, they got a more strict policies to foreign students. So once those students, they got the F1 visa, the F1 visa would just valid for 1 year. But during their PhD study, right, they would have 5 or even 6 years stay in the United States. Therefore, even though the F1 visa is only valid for 1 year, they can still stay in the United States for 5 or 6 years, since the valid ending date is based on the I-20 form instead of their visa. Therefore, for those students, they're kind of troublesome. If they wish to go out of the United States and back to the United States again, it's really troublesome since they need to fill out a lot of forms with the universities. And therefore, as I know, for most of the PhD students, they will just stay in the United States for 5 or 6 years instead of traveling out or back to their home. Alright, next, let's talk about the internship. The internship for J1 and F1 visa students are quite different. For J1 visa students, they have something called academic training, which is basically after your exchange. For example, for me, I got a exchange at University of Wisconsin-Madison, and after that, I chose to have an internship in the United States. And therefore, I have to extend my DS 2019 form, and of course, I have to got the offer first. So I got the offer, I extend my DS 2019 form, and I'm eligible to have another internship in the United States. while for F1 visa students, they have something called curricular practicum training. So that is basically also a very similar thing, but they are not extending their I-20 form, right, since that is still valid. Therefore, for them, it's just like to get a proof from the universities. And once they got that letter, they were able to, have the internship. Alright, next I would like to give two really important suggestions for both J1 and F1 visa. The first thing is, if you're going to study abroad, probably sometimes you'll be asked by the universities whether you would like to apply for either J1 visa or F1 visa. So here probably you would like just to ask, like, if I would like to study abroad, like for just one semester exchange, I definitely would get this kind of J1 visa, right? But that is wrong. I have a lot of friends, they either have a summer study, like just for 1 month, or either they have one semester study at the United States, they will still get the F1 visa. So here are the options for you. If you're offered either a J1 visa and F1 visa, which one would you choose? And I would tell you, definitely go to the F1 visa instead of the J1 visa, and I'll tell you why. For J1 visa, most of the applicants, they will have the 212E restriction. So that is called the home residency restriction, which means basically if you would like to apply for immigration visa or US permanent residence after your visa, you have to stay in your home country for 2 years. That is really suffering, especially for me. I'm a Chinese, but I'm studying in Singapore. How can I go back to my home country for 2 years in order to work in the United States? But of course, if you have this kind of restriction, you can have a waiver program, and that is really complicated. I won't illustrate too much about it. Therefore, if you're going to have a exchange program and your university asks you whether you would choose J1 or F1 visa, choose F1 visa, since they do not have 121E restriction or home residency restriction. And my second suggestion is basically for those F1 students. So in your final year, always remember to apply for those OPT. That is really important. For STEAM major students, apply that for 3 years, but for the rest, try to apply it for 2 years. At minimum, you can still apply it for 1 year, since that is really important, and try to apply it as long as possible. And the reason is basically when you apply for H1B visa, you got a lottery, right? Probably in the first year you failed. Even though you got the offer, your company wish you to stay in their campus and work for them, but you still got a chance to miss that kind of lottery, and therefore you have to have the lottery for the next year. If you do not have that OPT, you actually basically stay in the United States illegally, and you have to go back to home, and that is kind of tragedy, right? Alright, next I would like to talk about H1B visa. H1B visa is the only immigration visa in these 4 different types of visas. And the H1B visa is basically applied by your employer, which is your company. And the application process is basically by lottery. Usually in March and April, your application should start as soon as possible. And it doesn't mean that you will definitely get a visa, even though your employer really wish to give you this kind of visa, since it is basically based on lottery. So there are 2 rounds of lottery. The first round of lottery is for those people with high degree, which basically means for master and PhD students. And in the year of 2019 to 2020, the first 20,000 visa are actually for these kind of people, for master and PhD students. Therefore, for those students, they will first have the first round of lottery. And for the rest of them who didn't get this kind of visa, they will have another round of lottery with the rest of all the people. They could be undergrad, they could be high school students, right? They could be anyone. And the second round was issued 65,000 visas in the year of 2019 to 2020. Therefore, in the year of 2019 to 2020, there were only 85,000 H1B visas issued to those people. However, there were over 200,000 applicants to this kind of visas. And therefore, this is why OPT is so important. It is because if you failed in this year, you can still try to apply for next year, right? And if you failed it for 3 years in sequence, you are actually just say goodbye to the United States. You just cannot work there. You are just not lucky enough. Alright, the last type of visa is L1 visa. So L1 visa basically got 2 types. The first is L1A visa. The second type is L1B visa. For L1A visa is for executives or managers, while for L1B visa is basically for those experienced people with special knowledge or skills. So this kind of visa is issued for those people with special talent, and the United States wish to attract them overseas. So for this kind of people, the requirements is, first, they have to work overseas in the same company for at least 1 year. And second type of requirements is you have some special knowledge or special skills. And the good thing for this type of visa is basically there is no lottery. If the company wants to issue you this kind of visa, you will get this kind of visa and you will be eligible to work in the United States. And the perfect thing about it is you are still capable to apply for the green card, and the process of green card application is much shorter compared to H1B applicants, since you got something special. Usually for H1B visa, you have to wait like for 5 to 6 years in order to apply for permanent resident. While for L1 visa, you can just like wait for 2 or 3 years, and that is much shorter. However, as we know, L1 visa is really hard to apply since you have to have something special, right? Otherwise, your company won't offer you this type of visa. The last thing I would like to compare between L1 visa and H1B visa is the validation for the visa. So the maximum validation for both visa is like around 5 to 6 years. Therefore, after these 5 to 6 years, if you have no intention to apply for the permanent residence of the United States, you will be out. You cannot stay in the United States anymore, since the maximum length for this type of visas is just like 5 to 6 years. You are unable to extend your either H1B visa or L1 visa after these 5 to 6 years. Alright, here I would like to talk just one more thing. So basically you can see that all the visa here will be end with 1, right? L1 visa, L1 visa, L1 visa, H1B visa. There will always a 1 inside. So what does the 1 mean? That 1 stands for this kind of visa is issued to you, only for you, not others. And what does that mean? For example, you probably have family, you have your parents, you have your children, you have your wife or husband, right? This kind of visa is not issued with them. They do have this kind of visa if they wish to stay with you during your stay in the United States, and that is called the Type 2 visa. For example, for J1 visa, they can have J2 dependents. For L1 visa, they can have L2 dependents. So for your family, they will be issued another type of visa. They will start with the similar characters, either for example F, L, or J, but the number after that will be 2. Alright, I think this is the end for this video. I do hope this video is helpful to you. If you have any other comments or questions, please leave them in the comments below.